I'm Brandon Jacoby, and today I'm going to teach you how to jump. So when it comes to jumping, the equipment itself is a consideration. Depending on the distance and the range that you're jumping, like how close the cue ball is to your object ball and how far the object ball is from the cue ball, really is determined by the piece of equipment. So on the different jump cues, we have videos that go into more details about the various jump cues. But the Nano is for the very close range, the Jumper is for ball and a half to a mid-range table, and the Extreme gives you the most range on the table. If you're brand new to jumping, this is your best option to start, and I'm going to use this to show you how to jump. The technique I'm going to first show you how to use is what's called a dart technique, where you use your thumb and your index finger, just like you'd hold a dart to throw a dart at a dartboard, where we grip it here, and we basically are almost throwing it at the cue ball. So the easiest way to start to jump is, instead of using a cue ball, use a stripe ball. Because if I set this stripe on its side, it gives me a visual reference of where to aim. So right where this seam, where the stripe comes to the white of the ball, is where, for most jump shots, is where you're going to want to aim to. The other thing is we're going to start by placing this ball really close to the rail, okay? So it's a lot easier to bridge a lot taller. When you do a dart stroke or most jump shots, you will be using an open bridge, meaning that you're setting the jump cue on your hand like this. It's really important that your bridge is nice and tall. By setting the ball close to the rail, it allows you to bridge extra high. You don't want to bridge up close to the ball. You want to get as much distance between your bridge hand and the cue ball as possible. So they kind of give you some idea of how that works, as if there's a nail sticking out of a board and this is a hammer, and I start with the hammer here to pound in that nail, versus if I come back here and I swing, I'm getting a lot more power and acceleration from back here. It's the same thing with the jump shot. So you want to bridge nice and tall, because if I have 6-8 inches between here and the ball, there's a lot of room to accelerate. If I'm bridged up close to the ball like this, I only have 2 inches to accelerate. So the farther you bridge back, the more power you're going to get. So we're going to start by grabbing this finger groove with your thumb and your index finger, so just like holding a dart. So it's really important when you grip this that it's up very tight to your neck, because now my chin is over the cue, so it's a lot easier to sight the ball that way. So aiming the cue is much easier if your head is directly over the cue stick. This grip needs to be really loose, so you can see how loose. This is a wrist shot, not a forearm shot where you're using the whole arm. It's more of a wrist like this here. I'm going to chalk this up. Okay, so we're going to take our thumb and our index finger. We're going to grip it here. We're going to pull this up nice and tight to our neck. We're going to bridge nice and tall. I'm going to come aim at the seam of this ball. We're going to come straight through the ball all the way to the felt. So here it is in action. So we're going to bring this up nice and tight. We're going to just follow straight through the ball. A lot of questions I get about jumping is, how do I determine the angle that I strike the ball at? So an easy way to think about that is, if I take this 14 ball and I strike it into the rail, the angle it comes into the rail is the angle it comes off the rail. A jump shot is in essence a bank shot. We're banking the ball off the slate. So the angle of the cue is the trajectory of the ball. So in order for this 14 ball to fly over that cue ball, it probably needs to fly at about that much of an angle. So I would mirror that angle on this side as close as I can, and I would shoot straight through that ball. Follow through is very important. So I'm going to shoot this shot where I don't follow through. So I'm going to aim at the seam, and I tried to stop the cue. So you can see I didn't come through, versus when I follow through. Okay, all right, so you can see I came all the way through to the slate. The reason why that's important is because as I strike this ball, if I'm trying to stop the cue, I'm losing all that power, because as I'm coming forward, I'm telling myself to stop, so that I'm slowly constricting all my muscles, so it's stopping. Just like if I were a baseball player and they throw a pitch at me, if I was going to hit a home run, I wouldn't stop my bat right here, right? You follow all the way through. It's the same thing with the jump shot. So we're going to take our thumb and our index finger, put this up over our shoulder, aim at that seam, follow straight through that ball. Okay, so you can simply change your angle by bending your knees. So with my thumb and my index finger placing this over and just simply bending my knees, you can see I have this range of motion. So I can change my angle to get it to go a farther distance by just simply bending my knees. But it's the same shot, it's just that my knees are bent. I have really short fingers, so it's really difficult for me to bridge and get a lot of height. So I'll change my open bridge. So instead of setting all my fingers down like this, I'll only bridge on 2, like this. So once we get out into the table, and I have to bridge out on this table, I'll stand my middle 2 fingers up like this to get extra height. Because again, your bridge hand needs to be really far away from that cue ball to get extra power. All right, so I'm going to shoot some shots real quick, applying some draw or some follow. So I'm going to continue to use the strike ball so you can understand what I'm showing you. So if you want to draw a ball when you jump, instead of aiming at that seam, we're going to actually move it down to perform draw. So this will put a little backspin on it. You don't need to go really low. At just 1/4 of an inch from that seam will apply draw on that ball. Versus if I want to follow that or put topspin on it, I would go above that line. So aiming at this point, I'm just going to go slightly above that seam, and it'll put forward spin on the ball. All right, a couple other quick practice tips. If you have a table at home or your table at your pool room and you don't want to damage your felt, you can jump off of a scrap piece of felt, right? So you can place the ball on the felt and jump. I'll just shoot one real quick. Another good practice technique, especially when you first start, is instead of trying to jump over an object ball, you can start by just simply jumping over a piece of chalk, right? So it'll give you a little bit of positive reinforcement, where you're just trying to simply jump over a piece of chalk. And then as you improve, then you can switch and move to an object ball and jump that. If you're brand new to jumping, the easiest way to start is using the dart technique. But as you advance, you're going to find that that always isn't the way that you're going to want to jump. So for me personally, if I'm within, let's say, a 12 inch to a couple inch range, I will dart it. But as the distance gets longer, then I'll use a more traditional stroke. So we're going to use the extreme for this. So it basically comes down to the limberness of the wrist. So what really works with this extreme is the form on the back. It makes it really easy and comfortable to grip this nice and loose. So I find bending this front arm, so instead of having it straight like I would maybe typically use it, I bend this arm up so it's nice and bent. And then when I grab it on the back side, I'm grabbing this nice and loose. So this is extremely loose. All right, now my contact point on the cue ball is the same. So I'm going to use a strike ball so you can see that point. So I'm going to still aim at that seam of that ball. And I'm going to keep this nice and loose. And just like when I dart it, I'm going to follow straight through, but instead of my wrist being loose when I'm darting it, my wrist is nice and loose in my backside. So I'm going to, so you can see I still followed through the same, but being really loose in the back helps with that. Now, I find that for me, I get the cue directly under me, just like I would when I'm shooting a regular shot. Some people find it a little more comfortable to actually kind of sidearm it, where instead of coming directly under, like this, you actually take it sideways. So I'm going to shoot one where I'm shooting it sideways, right? So it's a little bit easier to get an angle on the cue, but I'm also pushing my head so I'm up over the shaft of the cue. So I'm still aiming the same as what I normally would, following through. So that's another option. So you can kind of sidearm it a little bit or come through straight. I find for myself, I'm the most accurate coming directly underneath, but everybody's body type's a little bit different.